artists and creatives to meet. This one in particular is Art Meets Wellness. And as you guys know, you've already been focusing on the art and the wellness portion, but now we're going to hear some people who are very experienced in this aspect. So if you don't mind giving yourself an introduction to who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Tanisha Ricard. I am the co-founder and therapist at Be Mindful Clinic. I am a licensed independent clinical social worker in Western Springfield and also Connecticut.
Hi everyone, I'm Felicia Farrell. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and registered yoga teacher. I grew up in Springfield, but I'm currently based in New York, New Jersey, and I serve clients in a therapeutic way.
My name is Daniel, but my name is John. But everybody call me Gypsy. I'm actually very honored to be up here because sincerity is my only credentials. I actually don't have any like certifications or anything like that, but I've been doing community work for a while. And thank you for having me.
We appreciate you.
Hi, my name is Lorraine. I'm a mental health clinician also in Springfield and the surrounding areas.
Awesome. And one thing I want to let you guys know, the Love Art Collective is a part of the Springfield Creative City Collective, which is a large grant we won last year worth $500,000 to do programming like this. All of my events for the next 2 years that are my art meets will be free, and you guys are welcome to come to any of them. And they happen every month. What we are as the SCCC is a coalition of economic development stakeholders focused on the transformative and revitalization of the Springfield creative cultural economy through sustainable and culturally proficient initiatives that interconnect advocacy, racial equity, social justice, professional development, and strategic investment. So this month, Art Meets at the intersection of creativity and well-being. Our program is filled with active exercises to grow and retain healthy habits through creativity, and this panel is just talking about some of those. So I want to get into our first question. The first question is, my phone is in use here. Practice and habit. Oh, actually, what I really need to do is explain what wellness is. So I apologize. Okay, don't worry about it. Wellness and focusing on wellness is the practice and habit of making sure that your body and your mind and spirit are in tip-top shape. And so what you have to do is convince yourself and be creative about the manners in which you are prioritizing these things. What that looks like is making sure you brush your teeth every day. And it may be simple, or wash your face, or wear socks that have no holes in it. Whatever healthy practices mean to you is something that you're going to focus on to maintain well. And so with that definition of wellness, how in your practice do you make that a habit for you or encourage other people to do so?
I think it's really about accountability, really understanding that if you are going to create habits or want to create a different lifestyle, it takes a lot of balance outside of just the separate goal, the individual goal. I think allowing it to be something that's realistic but also measurable is very important. But with it being measurable, you kind of see the progress that you make, and then you can also revamp the goal or the habit, or you can congratulate yourself that you have reached that milestone in your life.
I think I would say just trying to do one thing every day that feels good for you, even if that's something small, like if the thing that you enjoy is taking a walk or like drinking water or whatever, just trying to do one thing and the millions of things that we have in a day, it's the first thing that comes to mind.
For me, when it comes to mental health, the main number one thing I would say to like anybody trying to shift from one state of being into another one
Mhm.
is literally to get up and move, like exercise. You don't gotta run a mile. You don't gotta bench press 200 pounds. You can do some little scissor kicks, some squats, some push-ups, whatever it is that works for you. Just get your body active and move, and that is like, it's an extreme catalyst to change.
Yes. And so I'm just going to switch the question on you, Lorraine. I
Oh, no,
apologize.
you
Now that we have some examples of practice and habit, can you just tell me what are the top 3 things you do in your own life and that you push others to do to make sure that they're prioritizing wellness?
Well, for me, the first step to changing anything or using any coping skill is awareness. So to try and just be aware of self, of where you are with your mental health, of if your thoughts are running, or if you're starting to feel down, anything. The first step is awareness, or you sit there and endure it. So I tell people the first step is to be aware. Once you're aware, that gives you opportunity to act on it. So even if, like, I have people who have running thoughts, so as soon as you're aware that you're, oh, those are those thoughts, get up and move immediately. So it's a 2-step process. As soon as you're aware of something, you make a move. That kind of goes along with what he's saying. And you said 3 things.
You did too.
I'm still on that first question. I was getting all that. Okay. Another thing, I guess, would be taking a moment for self. We're all very busy, and one thing I stress is not to rush through a coping skill, whether it's taking a breath, taking a walk, whatever. Do not rush through it, because the whole point is to be better, and and it's a coping skill to make you feel better. I had a girl leaving my office, and she was so stressed, and she was just on a lunch break, and she felt she had to get back, and her mind was just running. I just walked her outside to the outside of my office and had her stand there and take 1 minute. I counted, because you don't want to be counting. I had her take 1 minute and just take some breaths, counting the 4 in and 6 out. Just do that for 1 minute, and after that, she was like, "Oh my God, thank you, it feels so good." But it's like, don't stress yourself, not like this. Okay, I gotta breathe real quick and then get this. You know what I mean? Because we're so rushed that we have to do that. That 1 minute, like I told her, you're not gonna lose anything. You're not gonna be any later. You get to anything faster. Nothing. Take that moment. Okay.
Gypsy, do you have a top 3 things to focus on that you tell people to prioritize their own wellness, or something that you do yourself?
For me, the top 3 is, like I said, exercising. It releases those endorphins that, boost your morale. Water. Drink water, bro.
That's
What
good.
you consume is mad important, and not just what you consume physically, like what you watching on TV, what you are listening to, as far as music. Like you probably say I'll be rapping, but we listen to R&B in my house. You know what I'm saying?
Like how Cardi B don't let her kids
You
listen to
feel
her
me?
music.
It's a vibe. You know what I'm saying? And that's because I gotta be mindful. And that was what I would say is the third thing, like maintaining mindfulness, remembering that even though all this is going on, like how we just got up here, I'm up here with all these esteemed guests. You know what I'm saying? But I'm, you know what I mean? And you asked, are you nervous? I'm gonna be so mindful that I'm not gonna adopt the energy. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be mindful of my own and stay centered in myself. So that's the one thing I would tell everybody. Like, don't get caught up in what's going on around you. Like, keep it up here, because where you live at mentally is the quality of your life. You know what I'm saying?
Those are some gems right there.
Right.
You got something
You
to,
get there.
you got something to follow that?
Therapy, you know what I'm saying?
And someone get him a certificate.
It's coming in the mail.
Yeah.
It's on the way. Alicia, do you have answers for that? Top 3 things?
Top 3 things. I would say number 1 is I've tried to insert some kind of joy into my day, whatever that has to look like. Again, I always try to start with one thing. And I would love to say that I'm someone who like wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning and has a full breakfast and like meditates and all the things, but I think trying to find like a minute to do a deep breath as soon as you wake up, or like not grabbing my phone as soon as I wake up, right? I've started doing this thing of like listening to one slow song first thing in the morning, right? Just to like take a beat. And then also movement is definitely on the top of my list, trying to figure out even if it's just a walk, like I was saying. And the third thing I would say is trying to figure out a way to be in community in some way every day, even if that's like, I'm gonna be active in the group chat for 5 minutes, even though I'm terrible in the group chat, or I'm gonna like call a friend, like something that connects you to other people. I think especially like in a post-COVID world, it's really easy to just like stay in our bubble. So trying to leave my bubble at least once every day, even if that's just it.
I love the diversity in these answers. I do none of these. I drink tea for my wellness, and that's my daily habit. And I'm going to incorporate a lot of these that you guys are talking about. But moving on to our next question, since we are an art nonprofit, I want to ask, what creative methods of wellness do you know of, or have you seen other people use in their life? So some people drink tea, some people get out. I want to know, is there anything that like is super creative that you were like, wow, I've never really thought about that? Do people trick their mind into being well, or?
Well, I think the creative things that I have seen or even been a part of or a guest to would be, I really like the sound meditation. I found that in itself is very creative. And I've seen it where you can have like the one-on-one sessions of sound meditation, using the instruments, art therapy also. I have a few people that I serve. When I first started therapy, when I first started as a therapist, I was introduced to art therapy from my customers, and they had the coloring books that look similar to the neurographic. I won't say the neurographic coloring books. And they use that to reduce anxiety. It was proactive for them. Meditation is another thing. Or EMDR. I don't know if you guys are familiar with EMDR. But EMDR is the eye rapid movement therapies. Lorraine's familiar with that. She's a trauma therapist, and that is very helpful with trauma therapy. Yeah, so I'm not certified in that, but I find that I was a consumer of that when I was in my own therapy, and it was very creative and helpful.
So the question is creative methods to remind yourself to be well. Have you tricked your mind into doing anything I've heard of somebody doing that?
For me, surprisingly, it was yoga. Like, the girl that does, she's a yoga therapist, instructor. So, like, what started out as me just getting up in the morning and just like enjoying watching her do yoga. You know what I'm saying? And just like, yo, you really do this every day. Like, you get up but just seeing the bloom in her, you know what I'm saying, in her face and everything, just her glow, how it would be after, versus like when you just wake up slow, so it's like, but after yoga, it's like, you know what I'm saying, lit, and then she always would invite me, and I never would, but once I did, I see the benefits, like the way that it calms the body, and I'm someone who's people think that I'm never anxious, but I have very high functioning anxiety. Like my therapist told me, you're hypervigilant. You know what I'm saying? Due to stuff. So I love that I could do something like yoga and bring a sense of calm to myself, because I'm never usually functioning in that state of being. I found how to function this way. You know what I'm saying? But yoga, I would say yoga to anybody is beneficial.
And so 2 things I heard: you have to trick yourself into not saying no, right?
Yeah.
So
I said no. How long did I say no for? Now.
Okay, wow.
I just want to take a moment. We heard about a Black-owned business. Can you just shout out that business real quick?
Black Girls Who Freedom Flow.
Okay, please tell us a little bit more about
That's her yoga. That's her yoga. Is that still the name of it?
Yeah.
That's her yoga thing. Y'all can contact Aldira Cave on Facebook, Aldira Johanna on Instagram, and get with her, man.
Thank
She
you.
do
Thank
yoga.
you.
She's nice with it. They do
Thank you.
not just yoga, but they have like a community, and they do like they organize hikes and walks and stuff.
Yeah, we do
Sometimes
a
like
lot of
me or
different
one other
stuff.
guy, we go for like the
It's a
safety
hike.
purposes, but it's an amazing thing to see the unity in the women. I encourage everyone to get her in the green hoodies, Instagram information and stuff like that, because she's always trying to put stuff together like this right here.
That's wellness right there.
Wellness.
Yeah, I incorporate yoga stretches and therapy, actually. We'll get up in this session. And people are so tense and they're so tight and they don't realize that trauma and mental health is in your body also. It's not just your mind. So I work on that a lot with people. But methods that I use to remember every day is back to awareness and picking maybe one thing. We talk about practice and habit. When you practice something over and over, and it becomes a habit. So we have to do the same with any negatives. Watch things, habits you begin, or patterns of behavior you begin, positive patterns of behavior or whatever. So I get up in the morning and I practice what I preach. That's how I practice. I practice what I tell clients all week because it works. I don't tell people things that don't work, that I haven't tried. So I get up in the morning and I try to get up when I'm ready to, especially on the weekends. I do that for myself. Everybody knows leave me alone until I get up. You know, on the weekends. Yeah, if they don't. But that's what I do for myself, and I try to eat better because I think someone had mentioned food. I train that also. If we eat really bad, we feel sluggish, you know, and then we don't want to get up and move and do things, you know. And I've helped people who were very overweight start that journey to get up, to do that one thing, to begin that movement.
I like that a lot. And so I just want to stay with you, Lorraine. And I have a really quick question for you to move into the next session.
Okay.
So can you exemplify, because you talked about it before, that 1 minute of breathing?
Yep.
What does wellness look like in a time frame? And how do you squeeze that in a day?
Yeah, I train that all the time. A lot of people ask me, well, when I'm at work, you know, or at school, I see kids, I see adults. So what I tell a lot of people is they can just look down, like you're looking at a piece of paper, looking at your phone, whatever, and drop your eyes. Learn to drop your eyes. Not that rushed, okay. You know what I mean? No. You have to give yourself that moment, or you're not doing it correctly anyway. So you learn to drop your eyes, and people don't know what you're looking at, but your eyes are dropped, but it looks like you're looking at something. And you take that moment, it takes, I've counted these things, it takes 30 seconds to take 2 grounding breaths. I'm a DBT provider also. Grounding breaths are closing your eyes, just breathing normally for a second, and then take a deep breath in, counting to 4, and a slower breath out, counting to 6. Try it. Do 2 of those with your eyes, but you really have to take the moment. So my clients, I stress that so much because otherwise you're not going to get the benefit. So I train a lot just learning to drop your eyes and really just comfortably, not, you know, just to relax. You know, the purpose of it is to relax. So drop your eyes and do 2 grounding breaths. That really works for people. And the other one, I guess, it works for anything, suicide, anything, thoughts, whatever. Is to also drop your eyes and try to feel the air. It's not a breathing exercise, it's a focusing exercise. Try to feel the air going in and out your nose. In order to do that, this has to come right here. So you can't think and pay attention to that at the same time. And those both take like 30 seconds.
Wow.
So there's no way you don't have that time for yourself. And you're not gonna miss out on anything taking 30 seconds.
Absolutely. And people like to say, if you don't prioritize your wellness, you're gonna have to take care of your illness. So Felicia, do you have any quick exercises that you can fit into a day?
Thank you. The breath one is my favorite. I would say also, I don't know if any of you have heard of like the superhero pose, but standing with your legs spread, arms on your hips, for a minute will change your the way the chemicals in your brain are interacting with you. So that's something yes, literally like that. I prefer this, right? Like literally standing like this changes your brain chemistry for a moment, and it gives you the feeling that you can do anything. And I know that sounds silly, but I promise the first time you try it, it will help. And then I also like to have people, if they have a minute, think of the worst case scenario. If they're having anxiety about something, think of the worst case scenario, think of the best case scenario for whatever the situation is, and then actively think, what is the most likely scenario, right? And that sometimes, a lot of times our anxiety is like us catastrophizing things, thinking the worst thing is gonna happen, and taking that 30 seconds, a minute to be like, okay, like what is most likely? What is the like absolute worst case scenario, absolute best case, most likely? Sometimes gets rid of some anxiety momentarily.
Crunch time for me, I usually do the muscle progressive exercises where it's the muscle tension, muscle relaxation. I think that kind of reminds yourself to reset your body. So it's just like shrugging your shoulders up real tight. So it feels good. It kind of like helps you start to stretch a little bit. I also I have lotion at my desk. I'll just do a hand massage with the lotion. I like to do the essential oils like eucalyptus or lavender, and I'll smell it. It helps me relax a little bit. I bring a toothbrush, toothpaste to work. So like when the bathroom real quick, that helps me feel refreshed and staying hydrated. So I think my goal is to heighten my senses while I'm working, because sometimes you can pick up on energy when you're in session, and it's important to kind of reset yourself for the next person that comes into your space.
Actually, we would love that. So that actually leads perfectly into our next question, but I wanted to offer an opportunity for everyone to join us in deep breathing. Is that what it is? DBT? Could you lead us in a 4 second?
Dialectical behavior
Oh, I
therapy.
definitely don't know.
That's a specialized type of therapy for people who are severely dysregulated, like with their emotions, but it works with depression, anxiety.
And if everybody's okay with this, can you show us the 4 seconds and the 6 seconds real quick?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I want to see what that looks like. Is everybody all right with that?
Yeah.
Well, as a person who runs groups and trains, I would like you guys to try it with me. And you could just listen to my voice, but I want you to actually allow yourself, that's what I say, allow yourself to do this and do it correctly. So you just start off by closing your eyes. Like I said, no tension in the eyes, really drop the lids and let them relax. And just take a normal breath. And then I'd like you to, I'm gonna give the instruction first, keep your eyes closed. The instruction to these 2 grounding breaths is you count to 4 as you're breathing in to get a lot of oxygen, and then you count slower to 6 as you breathe out, and you do that 2 times, and I'd like you to begin now. And if you open your mouth, when you do it yourself in the future or whatever, when you open your mouth, you get more air and more oxygen. And when you count to 6 out, it slows you down. That's why it's 6 on the way out. And I'd like to ask you, what are you thinking about right now? Say it, don't think.
Get the exercise right.
Right, you feel like you should be thinking of nothing. Right, 'cause the point is to clear the mind, right? When you're in those stressful moments, or even if you have DBT is also about mindfulness and being in the present. Being in the anxiety is about the past and the future. The thoughts are about the past and the future, almost 95%. So when you become in the present, it relieves you, and because you're not thinking about the past and the future. Some people are in the moment because they're so intense, and that relieves them from thoughts of past and future, and that can regulate your emotions.
I actually love this because when I started the breathing exercise, I'm in panel mode, so I was thinking about it, but I thought the 4 seconds wasn't going to be enough air, and that's what I was worried about. And as soon as I breathed in the 4 seconds and then I started my 6, I realized that my presence was missing. That the 6 seconds was enough for me to breathe out and then still be able to get enough air for my next 4 breaths. And so after that, my mind was clear. But we're talking about presence in our next question, and that's perfect that we did that breathing exercise, because often when people are prioritizing other things in their life, they're not present about their wellness. So how would you say you tell people to be present about what's going on in their life so they can prioritize their wellness? Gypsy?
How I tend to be present is kind of like what she was saying about imagining the worst case scenarios and the best case scenarios. And I typically would say to bring myself to presence, I just think of the worst place you ever been. That ain't somewhere you want to be, and ain't thoughts you want to dwell on. And so it pulls me into the present, and it reminds me like, yo, I'm here, I'm in a free world, I'm healthy, I got like, you know what I mean? And that's how I get peace in my present, because that's the highest vantage point. So you want, you know what I'm saying? Like you want, sometimes when you're present in a problem, it feel like you fighting everything within the problem. But if you could become present and see the problem as a situation, then you're outside of it, and it's not like you in it, and you got more power over how it affects you.
I like that. And so I just want to ask you a follow-up question. People are so busy. How do you notice when you're unwell? Like, what is the defining line of illness, I believe?
What she said, when my shoulders like this, when I'm walking around and I'm in defense mode, and and you know what I'm saying? It don't matter who you around. You ain't supposed to be like this. We live in a world that keeps us like this, but you're not supposed to like, yo, and I remind myself like, yo, let your shoulders down, bro. Ain't nothing wrong, ain't nothing happening. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let your shoulders down. And that's I love when you said that, because that's something that I picked up in my own self. Yeah, for sure.
Felicia, do you have an answer to that question?
I'm actually gonna go first because I was gonna say what you just said.
Of the body scan,
Yeah.
yeah. So as I think it was, how do we tell someone?
Or how do you notice in yourself or tell someone
So
they're unwell?
I notice body scanning, and if it's another person, just meeting them where they're at. Not telling them they're unwell, but kind of helping them acknowledge it themselves. Like, it's really important to have self-compassion, and with that, just being okay with being okay with not being okay for yourself and for that other person, and just being mindful of not transferring energy to that other person as well. I think it's important. A body scan is just like, really checking in with yourself from head to toe. It could be, does my elbow hurt? Does my knee hurt? Like, what do I need? Am I thirsty? Am I hungry? Have I eaten today? Do I have to use the bathroom? Do I have to use the bathroom? Am I holding my, having to use the bathroom? That's important. Just a number of things, just really helping yourself be okay.
I would also say the shoulders I'm thinking of. I sometimes when I'm anxious, I catch myself in like, relax your tongue away from the top of your mouth, roll your shoulders down your spine. Like literally, I feel like I'm exactly like this a lot of the times. So trying to like literally relax the top half of my body. And then when I'm anxious or when I'm like in the middle of something or in the grind, I recognize that I like pull away from my community. I like disappear. I'm like, I gotta get this work done or whatever it is. And so like, I know I'm unwell with when I'm not in community anymore. And so like, as Lorraine was saying before, like knowing yourself enough and having the self-awareness to be like, what is my trigger and like, how do I usually show up when I'm unwell? And like, if that's the first step to then being like, okay, who can I hold accountable? Like, do I need to hit up Jasper and then say, hey, I haven't heard from you. Have someone check on you, right? So like tapping yourself into your community so they can also call you out when you're unwell, or I should say like call you in when you're unwell.
And so it's almost like creating a map of knowing your habits and your triggers. But you were both talking about body scanning. Can you walk through like a head to toe body scan? So what's the first thing that you do when you're noticing changes in your body? Because being unwell is all about how you physically feel, mentally as well, but then also your spirituality. So when you feel that you're out of check of those 3 things, what are the first things that you say, hey, I noticed this, now I know I'm unwell?
As far as the first part of your question, the body scan, there are a lot of different ways to do body scans. The first one that comes to mind for me is like awareness to different parts of my body, right? So I'll start with like, bring my awareness to my nose, like my breathing, feeling the air coming in and out. And then I'll literally go down one side of my body and down the other. So like, bringing my attention to my shoulder, my elbow, my fingers, my thumb, like going down each finger, and like that brings me into the moment. And I'll also have people do this in session, especially when they're like high anxiety, like there's a million things running through their mind, and it's a way to like consciously slow yourself down, is what we mean by a body scan.
Same thing, so just like head to toe. If you're mouth breathing, that tends to be due to inflammation, so being mindful of that. If you're scanning yourself and you notice that you've had like a particular pain, chronic pain, back pain or knee pain for a little over a month, you want to go see a doctor, that they be on top of yourself. Those are kind of things of self-care. Keeping on top of your appointments. If you're on any medications, being consistent with that. Those are body scans.
For me, the most body scan thing that I do is pay attention to my shoulders, how my shoulders feel, and I'm real big on like how my heart chakra feel, like how my heart feels. So I pay a lot of attention to my chest, like when I go into a room, when I come out of a room, when I go into a conversation, when I go into any interpersonal interaction, I monitor very closely my chest because I have a tendency to just start feeling like somebody twisting a wet rag around my heart. You know what I'm saying? And when you're feeling that, it's like a squeeze. So that's something you want to alleviate. You don't want to like walk around with that hurts. You know what I'm saying? So whenever I catch myself in those spaces, I know immediately like, yo, yeah, I gotta get away from so and so. I have to create change instantly. Otherwise, like that's something that just sits with me and I don't like that.
You know what's real funny about that? I've been noticing that over the last 2 years of my life is I'll walk into a space that I feel isn't meant for me, and instead of really recognizing it, I'll just feel indigestion.
Yeah.
And so my chest would just be like, oh, you need, it'll hurt for no reason.
The body alive, it's got its own language. You know what I'm saying?
That's smart.
For real.
Well, of course, we have disorders where it's somatic, where your mental health can go into your body, and that happens with a lot of traumas, even small traumas as we grow. They're literally in your body. So, what was the question? Sorry, I was piggybacking off what she said.
I apologize.
Was it body scan?
Yeah, it was about body scans and then remaining present. So that's what we're talking about.
Okay. Well, I like what Tanisha had said about body scan, as far as just checking in with self. Are all areas okay? Am I doing what I need to with different areas? Is there an area of my thinking, something on my body that I need to tend to or take care of? When I hear body scan, I think of it therapeutically because I use it all the time. So when I do it, I have a person once again allow themselves to close their eyes, take a few breaths, just normal breaths, and then start from the top of their head to the bottom of your toes, like I said. But start from the top and scan down your body slowly and see where you feel negative or pain or anything like that. And once you get to your toes, you take a few breaths and you begin again, but looking for the positive in your body, looking for a positive point. And every time I do it, it comes out, especially with trauma. Like one girl started choking, because the negative was in her throat. It came up in her throat. Other people, it's in their chest or their shoulder, anywhere. But then to go through and find the positive in your body afterwards.
And so we're actually getting to the end of this panel, and I just want to give a shout out to all of these Black faces up here prioritizing wellness in the area. And so my question to you is, where can people find you for your professional services? How should they follow you? Please just tell us all about that.
Dan Snyder on Facebook, one Gypsy King _ on Instagram, and anybody that's here personally, if you want my phone number, then you have my phone number. Again, I'm up here, and I like to thank y'all very much because hearing all y'all accolades made me really feel, you know what I'm saying, like a little bit about myself for a second. But what I will say is that like I said, sincerity, my only credentials, man. I really sit and talk. Sometimes people for years been telling me, yo, you easy to talk to. You just, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you give me good advice. Whoop, whoop, you should be a therapist. So,
You get that degree.
yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, just talking. You know what I'm saying?
Make it billable, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're doing the work. So
Right.
if you wanna get paid for it, you gotta do, you gotta.
I want to get paid for it, too.
Well, so that actually goes into the next question, but I'll let y'all answer the first. Do you have any programs that upcoming that we should know about?
No particular programs. Anything that I get the opportunity to, like this, like how Tiffany reached out to you and put us in the group chat. I'm all for it. Anything that is about upward development and positivity, that's my bag. I'm with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'll say. I got going on. I'm rolling with what's in flow and what come into alignment. So I'm hoping that more things like this help me do more of what I've been doing already.
Awesome.
You can find me at Be Mindful Clinic LLC. I just started my private practice.
Congratulations.
And, it's new, so I'm gonna be creating some programs eventually, linking up with Jasper hopefully in the future, and I want to eventually get planting, like a planting program, workshop type of thing. To do a lot of planting, vegetables and regular plants. So I find that has been my therapy for me. And also, you can reach me on Instagram at Nisha Nectarista or Be Mindful Clinic LLC.
Awesome.
And I have the pamphlets at the front too.
I will say, Homegirl makes these air plant things, and they're so dope.
Oh, the terrariums.
Yeah, the terrariums. Oh my god, y'all gotta check them out.
My Instagram is Felicia S. Farrell. I have a bunch of cards in the back, but I'm happy to talk to people. Like I said, I grew up in Springfield, so I am very excited about like being able to like be in community again in the city. Yeah.
I'm doing Be Mindful Clinic with Tanisha. It's a venture that we're on. I work at multiple places. I'm not mentioning them right now because I'm trying to start my own. But anyways, you guys can reach us through Be Mindful, and even if you go through Tanisha, you will get me, and we will continue to show up at things like this and be more present in the community as we build.
All right.
One question, are you in Connecticut?
Yeah, both, I'm licensed in both Connecticut and
I'm just Mass,
And
but
with
I'm
that-
working on Connecticut.
With that, we have audience questions, so the fire is actually on you.
Oh.
Does anybody want to come up or ask anything to the panelists about wellness or what they do in their regular day jobs or when they get home to prioritize things?
Hi.
Do you want to come up, please?
So I have a comment, response, and a question, I guess. But the first comment I wanted to make would be more of like a statement of like relation to the mind and like body connection. So I guess a little story about my mental health journey. I'm like a very anxious person, and one of the things that I do that doesn't usually help when I get anxious is like I try to research so much. And so a while ago I started getting like more uncomfortable, and it's a weird thing because I'm a very social person, at least that's what I believed. And I was always doing things, and then recently it started to get like too overwhelming, and I started experiencing like gut issues. And then I learned that the brain and the gut are so closely connected that you can actually start creating like physical stomach problems from just being anxious. And that's what I went through. And so I learned that. So when you guys talked about that brain-body connection, I related to it very well. And I'd say it's a real thing. If you ever feel like, oh, I'm never usually sick right here, and this never bothers me, like that's probably not just like a what I eat thing. It's probably bigger than that. But my question to you guys is that when you are in that moment of like realizing, okay, this is something that's sort of taking over, and there's like, it's a problem, but there's also a comfort in it, and that whole acknowledgement part, how do you transition yourself back out? You know what I mean? So like when you have
isolating.
Yeah, so like there was a moment where like asking personally, obviously. There was a moment where like I started to get comfortable with like, let me step back and like, you know, look into myself and like be by myself. But there's also part of me that feels like that's not the best approach always. So like, how do you know when the isolation is too long? Like, you know, and how do you get out of it from there?
Part of it is community too, as we keep saying, you know, getting in touch with someone, as you had mentioned also, Felicia, getting in touch with someone during the day. I don't think the technology is exactly the same. It just isn't. It's virtual, you're not there, you're not getting that personal interaction, you're not seeing their face, their expressions. That's all part of being a human. And if you're missing that, it's almost like you're living in a virtual world, and that is isolating. I have a lot of clients who they're just online all day and they're in a room in their house. Like, that is not social interacting. It is, but not if that's the main way and that's the only thing that you do, is social. So just getting in touch with someone, I guess, during the day, and trying to make yourself get out. Go to a store, go somewhere with a family member, your parents, or, you know, just to get out of the house.
I would say, as far as like knowing when to make a move, monitoring the ratio of your inner dialogue. You know what I'm saying? And by that I mean like when you want to become reclusive, how many thoughts of comfort does that give you versus how many thoughts of discomfort does that give you? Because I imagine that it's a both thing. Like, you be on the fence, you be like, yeah, I want to go, but I don't want to go, so I'm gonna just chill at home. But if your thoughts are plaguing you, if the ratio of one way is too high, then that's literally your body and your mind letting you know that it's time to make a choice. And usually the hard one is the one I roll with. So if you take it upon yourself to take it as like a personal challenge, that when you find yourself in those mental spaces or just even emotional spaces, however you may be feeling at the moment, do a quick self-assessment gauge. Talk to yourself real quick. Ain't nothing wrong with talking to yourself. There's nothing wrong with talking to yourself. You don't have to run from, well, I know me, I'll be like, I ain't trying to think about that. You know what I'm saying? But the more you embrace those things, the easier it becomes, because that becomes a habit in and of itself. That's literally just you meeting yourself as yourself wherever you're at. And the more you do it, the more you become a, look, I'm up here with all these college graduates. Come on, you know I'm nervous, but I'm holding it down, you feel me? Because that's the choice that I needed to make for me, because if I didn't make that choice, if I'd elected to not come today due to me feeling unaccredited to be here or something like that, I'll be plagued by that all week. Like, yo, boy, you know you should have went to that thing. Boy, yeah, you know your grandma would have been proud. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so there's benefits that come with meeting yourself in a challenge, but make it a challenge for yourself so that it's not a problem. When you anxious, yo, this is just, it's the game of life. It's a game. You know what I'm saying? Like, meet yourself there. You can do that. I'm sorry if I was long-winded.
I just want to offer a space for any additional questions. Brianna, do you feel like yours was answered?
Yeah.
And in moderation, there's time to focus on self, but then there's time to not. It shouldn't be that all the time. A lot of people
I know, I don't want to like take over. It was just.
No, that was a good question. Is it okay if I Yeah, please.
How you guys doing? So I'm an educator. So I spend a lot of my time thinking of ways to kind of thinking about how we're raising the next generation. And something that we've always talked about in the schools is how to incorporate wellness into school culture so that the next generation has better practices than we have had. So I guess my question is what certain practices or activities would you recommend should be a part of a student's school experience, more specifically secondary school, like middle, high school, teenage school experiences?
Yeah, I actually want to take this because me and Bree worked in the middle schools, Kylie, Kennedy, and what's the other one? Duggan. And Brianna was having trouble with her class, and what we did for about 15 minutes was had them repeat affirmations. And so that was very helpful because a lot of the time I feel like kids in that age range, the reason why they're acting up is because they feel so valueless in the things that they're doing in their life. They go home, their parents don't care for them, their homework's not done, their room's a mess, and they don't have any control. But when you remind them that they have value and they're important, then they can move forward as if they're a being that's worth something. And so I know, even if it's 5 minutes, that affirmation, or, you know, they always have the Instagram reels where teachers have daps for people, and it's like having something that is of worth to you is so important to people at that age so they can continue on with that self-confidence and evaluation of who they are.
I agree, and I do think that having the students help each other as well. Like if you notice that there might be a student that is more therapeutic, kind of like in tune to the wellness, like helping them teach each other. I find that that's helpful, and also bringing. I don't know if they have groups in schools now. I meet some of my consumers at the school, but incorporating more groups, therapeutic groups, teaching journaling, giving them education on wellness that way. I think that'd be helpful. Bring more programs like that.
I agree with you. I was gonna say gratitude journaling. That's one of the things that I got. That's one of the best things I've ever gotten from therapy is to wake up in the morning and imagine if you was in class and y'all can take a moment to do this. It don't take long, like 5 minutes. Write down 3 things you're thankful for and 3 things you want to achieve on the day. It keep you present and grateful on the day, but it also keep you goal oriented and driven and ambitious towards something on the day. And then at night, you're supposed to write down 3 things you're thankful for and 3 things you want to do in life, which means that you're going to sleep thinking about long term. You know what I'm saying? So when you wake up, it's like you got the proper balance of short term and long term ambition that keep you rooted in the present.
I think about how a lot of times students in particular aren't invested in the spaces that they're in because like they're told like you need to be here, you have to do it X, Y, and Z, right? It's like sometimes I work with high schoolers and sometimes just giving them the like you're in charge of this thing. On these days this is all you do what you want, figure it out. But having them like take ownership of the space and like, hey, I'm important here, I matter, I contribute to the space as opposed to I have to be here 8 hours a day, nobody cares, they might not even miss me, right? But like, hey, like this is my space, I'm also in charge of it, or something I find is helpful with you.
Allowing them to create their community.
There are a few different schools that have, they take mindfulness moments now. So what age range are you talking about though? Middle school?
Teenage, so middle school, high school, secondary.
So I ran groups in like 9 different schools over 5 years in Springfield, and they gave me the worst of the worst in my groups to let me do it. So anyway, they need structure, but they need caring structure. You know, not that just you need to do this, you need to do that. So I tell people present it as a choice. Not you have to do this, but it's your choice. Either you're gonna misbehave and get absolutely nothing out of this and ruin, you know, everyone else's experience in class, or you're gonna actually do this for yourself and get something out of it. And you can't say it in front of kids. When teachers reprimand in front of the class, that's just done. If anything, they'll get angry and they might lash out.
Yep.
But
Turn
to
up.
take them to the side and just show them that you give a darn for a second. You know, like you have a choice. I know this is how you feel right now, but unfortunately this isn't the space for that.
Appreciate that.
And psychoeducation for the educators, I think, is important too. Just you know, with your colleagues, really reminding them not to take things too personal when it comes to classroom setting, because I think a lot of times that can happen as well, like that kind of transference with educators and students. Yeah.
Not today.
All right. That's a great answer.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else have any burning questions? Oh yeah, please. Come on up.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Nate. So I would like to know
some of your tips for boundaries. So I founded and I operate a local sober house, and we prioritize people of color and folks of the LGBTQIA community. And with that, I find myself overextending a lot of times because I want to go above and beyond for these marginalized communities. So please give me your tips for boundaries. I feel like that's a really good way to safeguard your mental health, and I'm terrible at it.
I'm a substance abuse counselor too. Sorry, I do it all. I ran substance groups for years.
That's
Boundaries,
amazing.
we're empathetic, especially when we're caregivers in this capacity. And when I first started, I'd stay way over and I'd do too many things. And I realized some people, that's not good for them. So support is a big one. To have someone that kind of grounds you. It's just like with parents. I'm their cheerleader in the background when they love their kids too much to stick to their boundaries with them. You know, I'm like, you're doing right, you know, you're not doing anything wrong. But actually, like policies and procedures, have your own, stick to them. They're for a reason. You know, you make some policies and procedures around what you're willing to do and what you're not, and where your boundaries are. And then to have a support person that you talk to sometimes, colleague, whoever, to kind of encourage that and keep you there. Okay. People will take you all day.
I would say oftentimes we try to decide what our boundaries are after the fact, or like when we're in the middle of having to figure it out. And I think deciding what your boundaries are ahead of time, that way when someone asks you a question or tries to hit you up at midnight for something or whatever it is, you're like, actually I already said I'm not gonna do this, so I don't have to, it's like, we get this decision fatigue a lot where we have to make decisions all the time, and making decisions ahead of time and already having the answers ready is super useful. And then I also like to remind people, no is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain why you don't want to do something, why you're not going to do something. You could just say no and keep it moving. And I think a lot of times, especially as like service providers and educators, we think that like the world is going to fall apart, or as a young person or an adult or whoever, it's like their life is going to be shattered if we don't agree to whatever they're asking us for. And remembering that like you are not the end all be all of someone else's like joy, happiness, well-being, and like that takes a lot of pressure off your shoulders and allows you to say no more often.
I would say, like, agreeing with them, standards are for you to stand on, but also, again, mindfulness. Be mindful when you feel your what is it, your social battery, or your empathetic battery, or your therapeutic battery. When you feeling your thing get low, like that means you've reached your boundary. You know what I'm saying? And it's no disrespect, or it's not an insensitivity to whoever you're supposed to be of service to, because you can't be of service to that individual if you're not in your best space. Y'all just gonna end up projecting onto each other, and then you know what I'm saying, like then their anxiety is catching, and now you're anxious because you didn't have the proper, you know what I'm saying, like foundation to engage with them.
Especially with substance, they need a lot of structure.
Yeah.
But with them especially, unfortunately, it's their nature to manipulate or to try to get things their way or whatever. And they can't win with me. I don't care which direction they go. So, let them know that all you got to do is let them know where you stand, where your boundary is, and let them know you are not gonna cross it. Once they believe you're not gonna cross it and they can't get you to cross it, they'll leave you alone.
And you won't enable, I think that's really what's key, is that you don't want to enable their bad habits. So you want to put those boundaries in place so that they learn how to operate within their environment. And then you want to also prioritize your self-care. So at the end of the day, if it's 5 o'clock, that's it. You know, you can't overextend yourself. As long as that person's safe, because safety is first, then knowing that they're in a place where they're safe, then you could leave work feeling confident that you've done your job.
So I just have a little to add on that. I was working 2 jobs maybe 2 years ago. One was doing development for a nonprofit, and then I worked at a CBAT home for at-risk youth. And one of the things I led there was an art therapy group, and so we did a bunch of art projects. But what I realized my boundary was, when I left work, they were maybe about a 10-minute bike ride from my house, so they were super close. I always thought about them. And so the fact that I left my job where I'm supposed to be helping people in the service area and I was thinking about them meant that I did not have enough support to do what I was supposed to do. And so when I'm thinking about my job after I get home, that means I need more help to do my job better, and then I need to reach out to someone and so that we can get it done. And so on the days off I had when I was bringing extra art supplies in so the kids could have them, I realized that I was stretching myself thin because my mind was always running, thinking about how I can help them a lot better. And so when you realize that you're doing things like that, you need to stop because other people need to step in because you are only one individual with enough energy for you.
One more thing about boundaries, because you get in the habit of breaking your boundaries for what you're considering to be the greater good, but it's back to what it said. Like in my practice, I didn't have many clients initially, so I'm trying to get every client I can get. But my brain is the most on fire in the morning. I'm best in the morning. I'm not good to nobody at 4:30 p.m. You know what I'm saying? And so I had a client that we was structured to have them in the mornings. But say 9 o'clock come and she miss it, oh, can we do 5:30 p.m.? And in the beginning, I used to always agree, like, yeah. And I promise you, those was the worst Zoom meetings I've ever done because I was not my best self. You know what I'm saying? And so I ended up doing what you're talking about. You're almost enabling them because you're interacting with them different. You know what I'm saying? So that was a boundary that I had to stand on as far as
They're
like,
not giving them the best service that they.
you feel me? And I didn't want them to feel no way. So
Yeah.
you gotta catch me in the morning.
And they need to stick to what they're trying to do. That's part of wellness, like you said, making appointments.
Yeah.
You know, if we're overextending ourselves, staying late, now they're seeing it as, oh, well, I have a lot of clients who do that. Oh, your appointment's at 9 o'clock on Tuesday. Well, you called me Tuesday at 5. Oh, Lorraine, can I still talk to you? Blah, 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 blah. And I used to do that. And now it's like, no, unfortunately, you've missed your appointment X amount of times. Because what I had to realize, if you're not there, you're not doing the work. If you're not there, I can't help you. If you're not present. So.
I used to schedule my intakes on Saturday mornings because that's how I knew that somebody was serious about their treatment. So I would do 9 a.m. on Saturdays was my intake days. So the people that don't show, I was like, okay, you're not ready. And the people that came in, they were consistent, and that's how I built my caseload because those were the people that were ready for therapy.
Are there any other burning questions at all? Please, you want to come up?
I can say it loud. Do any of you do any work with children, younger children?
Oh, yeah. Under 8?
Yeah,
Like 5, 6.
yeah.
I have a 6-year-old, but if I do younger children, if I have younger children, me as a therapist, the parents are 100% involved. So if it's a younger child, mom or dad has a session as well each week. That's how I do it.
Because you can't take care of a child without involving their parents.
Yeah.
Their interactions affect how that child behaves and acts and everything else. I work with parents all the time.
Yes, that age, they're more, the parents are impressionable in the child's life, so.
Yeah, I asked because in this area, there's not many people like family therapists or child center kind of, psychiatrists and things. And we see a lot of these mental health issues that turn out when they're older. And I was thinking, like, what would be something that our community can do to bring more of this mindfulness starting at a young age, like even preschool? You know, like I was a
Something I
preschool.
don't want to do. Sorry, I hate to say it that way, but I ran groups for many years, and working with parents can be a little exhausting. I actually have 2 masters. Sorry, but it's the truth. Because a lot of parents bring them and they want you to sprinkle dust and fix them. Like, no, you need to come in the room. How are you interacting with them that they're reacting this way? And how can we change your approach so that you get a different response? Like, and it's training. Kids don't know. Kids do what they're allowed to do, and they test us. You know, I was trained that even at 3 months old, a baby knows that if I cry, an adult will appear. You know what I mean? You pick them up, they stop crying. You know, it's training.
Teaching parents those reinforcements are important. And also, I think if you want to teach children mindfulness, I think holistic activities are important, like children yoga. I think that's an excellent way to children exercises to help them balance it. Because the key to kids is that they're trying to learn ways to emotionally regulate. So they have a bunch of emotions, and really helping them find a way to advocate for themselves and for them to be heard is important for kids that age, 5 to 9 years old.
Yeah, I'm bringing this up because I think it's so important that us, adults in the community, become aware of this and encourage parents and school, preschools and all to incorporate those kinds of stuff.
It is very important.
I just want to offer a space. I know we have to get out of here now. This has been a great conversation, and there are a lot of other burning questions. They have given you their contact information. If you do not have their card, please get it. These are the experts in the room. I just happen to have facilitated the space. But can we give it up for our panelists and all the panelists? And then again, for yourselves for showing up on a Sunday to prioritize your wellness.
Thank you.
Thank you, y'all.
Thank you.